The crippled god will cleanse your soul.
But before it cleanses your soul, Philip, it will destroy your soul. Like, are you kidding me with the stuff that happens in those two books? Like, what is going on?
Hello, welcome to my reading update. The last time I did one of these updates, I had just finished Toll the Hounds, Malazan Book of the Fallen, Book 8. And I do have a video up now on my channel with Andy Smith and with Alan from the Library of Alexandria. Check that out. The first 10 minutes are totally spoiler-free for the book and series. And I think that can be useful even if you've never read any Malazan books, just to have an idea of how people feel that far into a huge 10-book series. I had a wonderful chat with them though. It was wonderful to have both of them on the channel. And I finished since then Dust of Dreams, as you might be able to tell from the introduction of this video. I am about to go ahead and start The Crippled God, and it took me a full month to read Dust of Dreams. I am pretty afraid at this point when I'm filming this, I may not be able to finish The Crippled God before the very end of this year. I just kind of doubt it. I'm going to try my best, but we will see. At the time of filming this, it is Sunday. I'm probably going to be posting this later in the week, but it is Sunday, December 5th. So it might be a while before I finish The Crippled God. I just don't want to rush the experience for the sake of meeting a goal. I'd rather really enjoy it and savor it. So it might take a while, but I did really want to finish it by the end of the year, wanted to finish the 10-book series. I'm still probably going to try to read a bit as much as I can this month. And I'm very excited. I loved Dust of Dreams. Hoping to gather my thoughts this next week so I can create a video of some sort. So video will be coming spoiler-filled on Dust of Dreams. In addition to Dust of Dreams, I've also been listening to a couple of audiobooks. So one of those audiobooks is The Storyteller by Dave Grohl. I did mention this in my last reading update, and I finished the book. I really enjoyed it. I have had wonderful conversations with my friend Jake, who is the bookish drummer here on BookTube. He is a percussionist, so it's been really fun to share ideas with him. We both agree on certain things about the book. We both wish that Dave Grohl had included more content on his process, on music writing, on drumming, just talking shop as a musician. Both of us are musicians, so of course we would love to learn more around that subject. But it's understandable that this book is written more for the fans of the genre and the bands than it is for people who are interested in that kind of content. We just happen to be those rare kinds of readers. But overall, it was still very enjoyable. I really think he seems like he's very authentic and genuine in the book, in my opinion. That said, I did enjoy the second half of the book more than the first half, because the first half did feel, although not overly glamorized or idealized, I did feel as though the first half of the book just seemed to be his experiences, getting into the band, get Nirvana, his journey towards dropping out of high school and touring the country, going on tour, that kind of thing. And it was interesting, but I just found it interesting. I didn't find it really interesting until the second half of the book, when he got a bit older and started confronting his mortality and some real struggles that he had and embarrassing situations that he went through. That's what I found interesting. Beforehand, it was just kind of interesting, but I liked more of those more intimate details about his story. So for that reason, I did enjoy the second half of the book. Now, I will admit I am more of a Nirvana fan than I am a Foo Fighters fan. So I was hoping for a bit more Nirvana content, and didn't feel like we got very much of that. A little bit, but not as much as I had hoped. It did fall short of my expectations a little bit in that regard. I really wish I could have had more musical talk, more Nirvana talk. It was nice to read about how he interacted with some of his favorite musicians and influences, but there were some fun stories, some very interesting things that I enjoyed. So I still recommend the book. I still think he seemed like a very heartfelt, grounded person, a very human person. And I just really enjoyed the message. It left me feeling really good by the time I finished the audiobook. So I recommend it. He narrates it himself. Check it out if that interests you. And then another audiobook I listened to this month was Know My Name by Chanel Miller. So I guess I've been getting into quite a bit more nonfiction lately. Know My Name is a memoir of Chanel Miller, who is a rape victim. She was raped on the Stanford campus by an Olympic swimmer student. And it's just heartbreaking. You know, I do read about a lot of rape. There's a lot of rape and sexual violence in Malazan Book of the Fallen. But of course, it's very different when you read a real lived experience of somebody who's gone through it publicly and who's gone through the judicial system, which is so re-traumatizing. I think that's one of the most eye-opening things about her story, is just how not only traumatizing the rape itself is, but how re-traumatizing it is to go through the judicial system, to have to confront this publicly, to have to come out to your parents about it, to your family, for them to see your whole identity change as a rape victim, to confront the person who raped you in court, and to share your story with a jury and a judge and with a whole bunch of people who just don't really understand what you've been through. So I just felt so much compassion for her, and it did anger me at times, just reading what she had to go through, just reading about some of the most irrelevant questions she was asked regarding that night in that situation. I can't really express enough how important I think this book is. One thing I'll say about the story itself and her writing, as of course I listened to the audiobook, so it was narrated by Chanel herself. I did feel as though when I was listening to it, as though her voice, I don't know if it was my imagination, but it seemed to me as though she became stronger and stronger the more she told her story. Like it seemed almost as though I almost felt a slight sense of detachment. I don't know if that's the right word. When she started telling her story, like just kind of going through the facts, as the story unfolds, I just felt like more of her came forward. It just became more and more compelling, more and more gripping. I just felt more and more connected to her the more I listened to her tell her story. And I just thought it was such a well-written, again, story, such an important story. So I hope that's helpful for anyone who's interested in picking this up. I actually owned the audiobook for a long time and finally got around to it after listening to Brittany from Books with Brittany talk about it. And I'm so glad I did. I think it was so important to listen to that perspective. Next audiobook I listened to was The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones, which was so good. I did a whole video about this, a non-spoiler video, so I won't talk about it a lot here. But if you're interested in this, it is a horror book. It is a little bit of a slasher, though I didn't find it personally very scary. And I do think, though, this would appeal to a lot of people who are interested in a unique story, in one that, of course, involves American Indian culture, in this case, the Blackfeet tribe specifically. And I just really enjoyed the sort of unique approach to storytelling and the themes in this book. I think Stephen Graham Jones is a very talented writer, and the way that it is written really lent itself perfectly to audiobook narration, because it is kind of the more telling rather than showing approach, but it worked. It worked for this kind of story very, very well. I know a lot of people use that sort of description in a negative way, but I think, like I said, I think it really, really was effective. I enjoyed just how it approached things. It kept shifting in its approach, and I just thought it was unique the way it was done. And it was fairly short, so I enjoyed my time reading it. I will say, I didn't say this in my review, but there are some trigger warnings for animal violence, so keep that in mind. And I'm pretty bad about talking about trigger warnings, because I know for me, I don't easily get triggered by a lot of things. I did mention, of course, how reading Chanel Miller's story, Know My Name, it did bring up a lot of anger in me. But I don't usually, when I'm listening or reading books and I'm reading something, some kind of brutality that happens, it's not usually very typical for me to go into fight or flight mode when I'm reading brutal things happening to people, especially in fiction. I think in nonfiction, that might be a little different, but I know everyone is different, and that some people are more sensitive to certain kinds of content than others. please let me know in the comment section your thoughts on that. So that's all I have to say for now. The other thing I'll say is that the other book I want to get to before the end of the year, though it might actually happen at the beginning of next year, is the beginning of the Winter Night Trilogy. This is to go along with the read along over on Evie. She was on the Evie's channel. I'm so excited to participate in this. There are so many booktubers who are going to be involved in this read along. It's a huge one. And I'm so excited though. I know this is one of Evie's favorite trilogies of all time. She's such a huge fan. And I feel like Evie and we look for very similar things in books. We seem to. I think we love a lot of similar books. And I have high hopes that I will love this trilogy as much as she does, or at least have as much as she does. So I'm very much looking forward to starting The Bear and the Nightingale soon. Again, I want to read The Crippled God first. Maybe I'll read both at the same time, who knows? But I'm very much looking forward to that. Another thing I might get to, because I checked it out from the library, but I don't know that I will actually get to it. And because it'll just take up more time that I could be reading The Crippled God, but I might read Finland Saga. I got this from the library, and this was very much off of Jimmy from the Fantasy Network's recommendation. I think he did a whole video on this. Yeah, I saw he did a huge video on this saga recently, and so I really want to get to it eventually. I don't know if I'll have time to fit it in. I'm not the reader that Jimmy is. He's just flying through Malazan Book of the Fallen, and he gets through so much reading in a month. I don't know how he does it. But again, if I have time, I will try to get to this. And I'm very excited to. I think it sounded really good when Jimmy talked about it. That's about it though. So The Bear and the Nightingale, possibly Vinland Saga, The Crippled God. That's it. Those are my only reading plans for the end of the year, unless I fit in another audiobook. So I have other things that are coming up in January that I will save for future videos. But until then, thank you so much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts on any of the books I've shared or any of the things I've shared in this video. I'd love to hear from you, and have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.